is, and I put February 3rd. I'm like, that's not right.
All right, why don't we go ahead and call the meeting, special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order at 5 o'clock, March 3rd. In attendance is myself, Mike Ergo, Nita Kincaid, Bob Carlson, Christine Dias, Admin Finance for the town. There's only one item on the agenda, and this meeting is was only because we wanted to get all the figures correct based on our last changes from our last meeting, and kind of officially move forward a number for a presentation at the Board of Finance meeting, which is at 7 o'clock tonight. With that being said, we've already gone through the budget line by line. I mean, certainly if the board wants to make any additional changes or has any more conversation, we can. That's the agenda item. Otherwise, we would just look to move a proposed budget of 21,000,005. I'm sorry. Actually, do I have the number without the Board of Ed number?
Yeah, it's the 21,577,131. It's on your.
No, that's what. Yeah, but that has a Board of Ed number in it.
Oh, I can do math.
Yeah, that's okay. Let me just do a quick. That Board of Ed number, just for the public's, we don't actually know what the Board of Ed number is, so it was the Board of Ed's last year number. So it's not. That's not a number we move forward because we do not have any say over the Board of Ed. Christine, just double check my math, but the proposed number would be with government operating debt and capital, $7,457,393.
Yeah.
That represents a 3.97% increase over last year's budget. And this is on the expenses side.
Right.
So those are the numbers. Does anyone want to have discussion or?
I have a few things, and I don't know. I think maybe Bob does too.
Well, Nita, why don't you go first? I always go first, so you can go first if you'd like.
You sure? Okay.
Go on.
All right. This is just a brief question. I know that we have not anything put forth here with regards to the general property, and it's just what we have this year. Do you have any sense? Do we have any sense that this is going to be $1 million higher, a $2 million higher? Is there anything that we can bring out with this? Maybe not right away, but.
Well, I mean, we can, Nita, and that's something we didn't do, but we definitely know what the grand list number is, and based on what the mill rate is currently, and it is substantial because of the revaluation. So it would certainly make a big difference on getting towards a balanced budget. We did not change the number in this budget. We left it as last year's number.
I know.
We can make that change without any problem. And Christine does have that number.
Well, without putting it in here, but bringing it up with the Board of Finance, could we do it that way to say that right from the beginning, that this is not as big a problem as it might look like at the moment? Or however you would put it. Maybe I put that.
I would just simply put it as the fact is that there's an 8%, approximately an 8% increase in the grand list that we did not reflect on this budget because we wanted to hear from the Board of Finance if they want us to include that.
That's perfect.
I think that would be something that we probably would want to consider, but I think it's helpful to have the Board of Finance weigh in on that.
I do too. Okay. All right. So that's great. My second one was, if you want to go very quickly, I put the page numbers down, but you probably don't even need them. On the A 5.19, the D obligation, where there was nothing for the 2022. Is that just another thing that's still, we're still in with regards to our, the one that, I mean, will we ever not have some de-obligation?
We definitely will have some de-obligation. Christine, I know you were more partial to not including the de-obligation. Is that
Yeah, I went back through and I identified A couple things we could deobligate, but it's not a lot, and we can discuss it. That's one thing I don't have with me at the house. I want to say that's three, maybe two projects that we could deobligate. There just aren't a lot. Through the years, we've gone through and tried to make sure that we deobligate things as we can. So I think one of them was the abate and demo line, which I think had about 21,000 in it. And then there was money left over from the storage shed project. But I think that was it. So I think it's less than 30,000 total that we could put into as a revenue item for deobligation of debt. The negative of putting deobligation in as a revenue source, as a budgeted revenue source, is that, that's a one-time source. You're not going to be able to replicate that in future years.
Yeah.
But if the board wants to put that in, we can make sure that we have that updated. I can try to see from reports that I've emailed you guys if I have.
Okay.
I should have something that I can come up with. Hold on.
Okay. I'm trying to go fast with this because I don't want to waste our time. With recreation, my only note to myself was when we have all of, now I'm at B1601 or something, and all of the things are paid for. I understand that, I think. Is it true that you have a certain number of people that are going to do this and therefore this is going to work? Or, I mean,
those are the rec director's projections based on how many people historically have signed up for those programs, and he has that corresponding number of participants reflected in his revenue side. So if he thought that 20 people were going to do the mountain biking program, he budgeted for 20 people to to have the expense and 20 people to have the revenue. So it's a corresponding expense and revenue.
Okay, so if a lot of those in this kind of a year that we've had already had came in and it was like half of what the person was waiting to take care of, would we be out of money for
they only get, so certain instructors are paid per participant. So if we had 5 people in the art class, but we thought we were going to have 10, we're only paying the instructor for the number of people that actually register.
Okay.
So we're not out any money. It's just less money coming in and less money going out.
And then another one that I had was B25.00. And is all of that, Tim, that number?
25, the IT, that's all Jim. Yes, that's the coordinator.
Okay, all right. And is he in other places too? I can't ever.
No.
No.
We
Okay.
changed it in last year's budget that all 40 hours of him come out of that line item.
Thank you.
So that's
and then I'm going fast. B2504. We haven't paid for next year yet, have we? Are we going to leave this in?
So, Mike, do you want to answer this or do you want me to? Open Gov.
Oh, yeah. No, we haven't paid for it, and we're not going to pay for it as long as we get the software that for the school. So that would be something we could remove.
I think keep that in the capital. If that comes out of the capital, then we need it.
Yes, the school software comes out of what are you talking about?
Yes. So right now, let's call it Infinite Visions.
Yeah.
Infinite Visions is budgeted in capital.
Yes.
But if along the budget process, Infinite Visions gets removed from capital, we need that in that Open Gov amount in operating.
That's right. But that is something that could go away. So yes, Nita. I mean, we could remove it right now. If you want to make any of these changes now, we can.
I just didn't want us to forget them, and I.
No.
Okay, and then the next one, the B2614, the per diem for the 2 per diem people for the. Have we said we're agreeing to that at this point?
We
have.
did. We put it in our budget we're about to present, unless you want to remove it.
No, I don't want to remove it. I just want to know, are we all established that we really need the other one? Just putting it out. You don't have to even say anything more. I'm just saying, I think.
Bob has his hand up. Go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna cover it on my needed. I have a suggestion about cutting it back a little bit, but if I can do it while you're talking about it too. So my feeling on that is, and I need to get an expense report from Charlie on what made up that other $10,000 to go from 50 to 60 per person. So my feeling is not to go to 10,000 on each person, but to go up to 5,000. So I would keep the second person in there. Again, as you know, in the past, I've not always voted to approve buildings and equipment, but when it comes to bodies, we can have all the trucks and all the buildings we need, but if we don't have bodies to use them, it doesn't do us any good. So I'm not opposed to the second person, but I think I would lower the line item by $10,000 and go to 55 and 55 versus 60 and 60. That was just my suggestion.
All right. Okay.
Well, why don't we, all right, so if we're gonna, and I don't mind making changes right now, just realize the Board of Finance won't have those, but I'll present them tonight.
Yeah.
And so I don't disagree with you, Bob. I made that comment in the last meeting. I felt like it was I thought we had too much there. So we would bring that down to 60,000
Take
versus
10,000 out of the line item, right?
Okay.
All right,
So
so
Okay.
So with the,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Do
Go ahead.
do we need to vote on that, or is that just an agreement?
I think why don't we just keep talking and see what else we can agree on? Maybe we just have one vote.
so
If
my
we-
question to you all is, so that new amount for the proposed would be 110 instead of 120?
Correct. That's what I think.
And if we're talking about it, do we want to just not to go back, but do we want to just remove the open gov since we've budgeted for the Infinite Vision software?
Well, Mike, I was going to actually try to remove the Infinite Vision software for the $60,000 for this year and stick with OpenGov for another year. If you and Nita vote to leave it in, then we should remove the OpenGov. If we vote to take out the 60, then we need the OpenGov. If we vote to keep the 60 in, we need to take out the OpenGov. We shouldn't have both in there at that.
I think I just speak up to say, I think that a lot of people don't like it. And so I think we really should change it, I think, and to do another year of it, everybody will just think we don't care.
But if we take it out, Nita, and then we have to go back and take out the 60, are we able to put OpenGov back in? Because we're going to use one or the other, correct?
It's not due till February. If we could do it through our process.
We know.
But I would ask, Christine, why don't you weigh in on this? Because this is, we've talked a lot about this software. Just I value it because I think it makes sense to get the school and the town on the same platform. You guys don't see this, and I don't know that this solves all the problems. Maybe it doesn't, but it is a challenge to reconcile between the school and the town. It's something we struggle with very regularly because we don't oversee one another. We have to work in parallel.
Mm-hmm.
So this would help us to work much better in parallel than we currently can. And that's a really big deal when it comes to the audit. And it's a really big deal when it just comes to collaboration. I don't know that this fixes all those problems, but that's my take on it. This is it makes a lot of sense to me. But Christine,
We thought the Board of Ed was going to come in with us. We saw right from the beginning time that it was never going to happen. So
they got the software. They had no choice because
I think Nita means with OpenGov. They didn't come in on
OpenGov. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So
to,
let's get with them. This is at least a chance to get with them to a certain extent, I think. Anyway, okay.
I'm sorry, Nita, hang on. Christine, do you want to weigh in on the software?
Yeah, so Infinite Visions, in addition to doing all the things that OpenGov does, it's going to help the town operations run a little bit more smoothly. QuickBooks works really well, but this works better for the accounting purposes for us. And it's also going to be able to bring some of our other operations into one place. Yeah. It's going to help us with doing our staff tracking, things that we do manually with spreadsheets that there's always room for human error in, we'll be able to do through the software. And it's going to help with the tracking of our fixed assets and the depreciation for audit time. So rather than certain things having to wait to do till the end, we'll be able to keep them going as we move through the year. So I see a lot of benefits to us in the entire operations for us moving to Infinite Vision. So I really do.
Maybe even I could use it.
So could we agree? And if we can't agree, we can vote on it for the record, but can we agree to just remove OpenGov? I mean, Bob, could you get on board with that?
No, because I don't, so I'm looking at the government operating budget of 8.31% increase. And there's no way that that's going to fly in the Board of Finance. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to have us go back and we're going to have to go back and cut our budget again. Because that's too big a number. I'm sure they weren't looking for a number that large. And if I look at where we can cut, and I agree with everything Christine said, and I think that's where the town needs to go down the line. But until we know what we have for an increase in dollars because of the reval, and actually I have other places I was thinking of doing some cutting tonight, but I just think that number is going to be too high to go into the. I feel uncomfortable going into the Board of Finance with a number with that kind of a budget increase. So I would vote to take the 60,000 out for this year. If you decide that you and Nita want to keep it in, then we need to vote the OpenGov out. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, so we'll do this one at a time. Let's first off have a motion to reduce the fire line, the per diem staffing line from 120 to 110.
I motion that to drop that down by $10,000.
All right, motion by Bob, second by Nita. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 300. Do we have a motion to remove OpenGov software line from the budget?
I move.
I'll second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Bob's opposed.
Okay.
Okay, continue with your question.
I have the number, if you guys want to talk about the adding to the deobligation number.
Yep.
The abate and demo currently has $21,118.45 in it. And the storage roof project has $2,499.19 in it for a total of $23,617.64. But I don't know if you want to make the decision to deobligate those projects without having discussion. So you can leave it for now and then add it back in, add that in at a future meeting after the Board of Finance has reviewed. Totally up to your discretion.
Yeah, that we could get that in then. That's okay. My last thing was just to say, I hate to say this, and then I'll give it over to Bob. I had to put at the end in mind the Wheeler Library, which I love and spend plenty of time with those folks and everything like that. But we may have to take something out of that, like $5,000 or $10,000 at least too. But I don't want to do it yet. I'm just mentioning it and seeing if other people feel the same way. I don't think we should take it out yet.
Bob, you have a list?
Yeah, I do. I'll start at the beginning because I'm going to hit that library one. So I have 3 questions on the revenue side and about 8 or 9 suggested cuts on the expense side. So, Christine, on A101, we're looking at actuals of well over $200,000, and this year $153,000 already, but we only have $100,000 in the revenue side. Why is that so low?
That's just the safe bet that we go with. You never know how much you're going to collect in past taxes. Sometimes you have larger accounts that come and settle up, but you can't count on that. So if you all would like to raise it, we can raise it. The 100,000 is just the safe estimate.
Was that 265 in 2020? Was that a large past due, one large past due that skewed that upward? Is that why that's so high?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, it just seemed like that number was low. comparing, when I look at the actuals for 2019-20 and year-to-date 21. But on the same token, on line A312, 3.12, the Mashantucket Fund, we're showing 587, 126, 67 in 19 and 20, but we see 880,000 this year.
So that's calculation issues because that comes in so late. The last payment literally comes on the last day of the fiscal year. So we do get 880, 690, and that was included in the governor's budget.
That's what we are going to get. We know that.
Yes.
Okay.
So we sent over, just so you may have may not have seen your email. I think, Bob, you probably did because I think you see it on your phone. But some of the actual, again, this is why I'm always leery about putting draft stuff like this out there because it's a work in progress. And this document, because of how we pull, some of the actuals on this document weren't correct. The actuals, not anything that we're voting on, but the actuals. So, I mean, so Christine sent out, she actually went in and manually changed all of those. So you have in your email the true actuals, which would correct that Pequot number,
Okay.
Bob. Okay.
I saw the actuals, but I missed that for some reason. Okay. One last question on this page on the DUI grant, A 3.34. We were zero for 2020 and 2021. Yet we're showing 40,000 this year. Is that coming back?
So I saw that as well. I don't know why it's like that on the actuals. We have a corresponding revenue and expense in the budget for that grant. So we leave both sides in. It's up to the discretion of the state if we're being awarded the grant. I have to go back and talk to Susan to see why it shows a zero on in the profit and loss. Because I know we did get it. So I don't know what was it with that. So, but as far as we have been told by the state, we are on target for having that DUI grant, correct, Mike?
I don't know that to be the case. The last I had heard about the DUI grant is that they actually had eliminated it and we were fighting to have it reimbursed, but I haven't heard anything recently on this grant. So I don't have that information.
Yeah, I mean, it is a net zero because it has the 40,000 in the revenue and the 40,000 in the expenditure. So we can leave it, we can take it out. Either way, it's not going to impact the overall, the final numbers.
Okay. Well, it shows zero for 2 years in a row. I didn't know why it was 40 in there this year. But if you have backup from Sue.
Yeah, I'll have to double check and confirm with Susan. So
Thank you, Mike. How do you want me to handle these cuts? Propose each one as a motion and have us vote on it, and then either take it out, leave it in, or decrease it? Or...
Yeah, I mean, if you're married to the cut, you should propose the motion.
Okay. All right. So on the second page, this has nothing to do with cuts. It's just we have selectmen expenses on B106, B.106. Shouldn't that say first selectmen expenses? Because we really have nothing to do with that.
You would have to create new lines that would say that because I don't think you can just change the line and start
When I do see what is the subtitles in there, there's nothing that we have to do with.
No, it's always been that way, Bob. But I mean, yeah, it's not just first selectman though. It's also like the selectman's office.
yeah, it's my cell phone as well and other things that we're doing. Some of the, yeah.
Okay, so it's the selectman's office more than the first selectman. Got it.
Yeah, that's right.
So I motion office expense B4.02. Looking at actuals, it's very low at $1,202.98, and now we have it at $4,400. So I propose to drop that down. Is there a reason why that's so high? Actually, we dropped it some, but still at 3,000. Is there any reason why that's so high?
That's what the assessor told us that they need for operations in their office So we can drop it.
More than double than they've used in the past, and we don't have any revals coming up for the next few years. So, so I motion to drop that down to $1,500.
Is there a second? That's B402. You're motioning to drop it to $1,500.
Yes.
Office expenses, 50.
If we don't hear a second, we can move on. I mean,
No
Say the
second.
number- Say the number again, please. Bob.
B402.
B402, office expenses, okay. And it's down by 1,400, right? To 3,000, is that the one we're looking at?
yes, exactly. That's the one, Nita.
Okay, and you want it to come to what, Bob?
1,500.
1,500? I see what you're saying, okay. Well, it seems that not unreasonable. Yes, I agree with that. I will say I agree with it, yes.
That's a second, Nita.
Yep, that's my second, right?
Further discussion. I would just say, is there an itemization of that? Did Daryl itemize what he has for these office expenses that makes up his request?
Let me open up OpenGov. I'm logged in. I just need to get to that line.
Yeah, just if we could just pause for a second, and I'd like to know why he has the request.
No, the only notes that the notes that I have just is what it says that it's postage is the main thing coming out of there.
And the actuals last year were, or what was actually spent was 1,273 last year.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay, any other discussion on this?
No.
All those in favor?
I,
Motion carries 300.
okay,
Okay, B 6.02, office expense, tax collector. The highest total we had in the past was roughly $3,000. We put in 9,000 this year. Is there a reason for that jump to be that high?
You said 6.02?
6.02.
The
So the
actuals
office
last year
expense.
was $7,139.66.
Let's see, that's one I missed. Sorry, that was in today's email, right?
Yes, and we this year mailed return address envelopes with the tax billing. So that came out of that comes out of that line. And I think it worked out very well for us to do that. And I think we should continue to do so for people to return their taxes.
Yeah, sorry, Christine, I missed that. I missed that in the email we got this afternoon, so
Okay.
apologize.
Again, I apologize that came out a few hours before the meeting.
I thought I had it covered too.
Well, you don't have, Christine doesn't need to apologize. That's my fault that those actuals weren't in there initially.
B 8.00, town attorney fees. It was at 30,000. We have a proposal of raising it by 4,000. I'm motioning to drop the 4,000 and go back to 30,000.
what's the number, Bob? I can't find what you,
It's on B 8.00.
oh,
The
okay.
second from the bottom on page 2, Nita.
Yeah, I see it.
Is there a second? There's no second on that, so move on.
It's got nothing on the next page. Surprise, surprise. On page, the third page, to give you the line item, it's B 20.06, employee benefits and pension. Unless I missed something here with
It's
actually that came out today, I see a $25,000 number in 2019 with a large jump. Actually, there was an actual 137,538, and then we got it at 158,112. So Christine, why from 2019 to now has this jumped up so high?
It didn't. So what I found is that if you look at your manager's report profit and loss, we itemize a lot of these into subcategories, and OpenGov is only pulling the very specific actual B 20.06, whatever was spent in that not itemized section. So we have a specific one for pension, and so we'll have like a B 26.6 061, 062, 063. So anything that's being spent out of that subcategory isn't showing up in what OpenGov is pulling.
Okay, so
So
the actual number 137,538 that came out today is a correct number. And
Yes.
we're moving to 158,112. We had it at 149, 179, and we're adding just under $9,000 to that line item to bring up to 158. So,
yes, we include a 7% increase on the medical because we don't know, our plan changes in October. So we don't know now what the new figures are going to be as far as health insurance goes. And then we have oh, that's a different line. Anyway, the pension increases based on what people are earning. So we have to have an increase in that. And the longevity goes up based on how long the people that are eligible for that have. So that almost $9,000 increase is based on the pension change and the longevity change.
okay, so you've got backup for it.
Yep.
Line item 22.06, we're putting $150,000 into expenses for the old middle school, high school building. We hope that in the next fiscal year that building is inhabited, at least partially. Is that the number, is if that building's empty?
No, we have to pay out all the utilities, and if we have tenants, we will bill them for it. So that 150,000 represents all of the legally required checks that we have to do for the building, the elevator service, the gas, the electric, and this is based on actual figures from the Board of Education that they provided to us and based on estimates from
Okay, so
prior.
we'll have money on the revenue side to offset this, hopefully, but this number is there because that's the true expense. Got it.
Right, because we will be paying it, and then we will bill out to any tenants for what.
And we haven't put anything on the revenue side. I mean, if we miraculously get some super tenant that decides to make an offer to us, then I think we should put money on the revenue side, but we don't have that right now, so.
Right. No, I agree. That's similar to what we did last year with the school kids, so I got it.
Didn't we put it on the revenue side?
Well, just
Only the Board of Ed's portion.
just the Board of Ed, yeah.
I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
On the, all the philanthropic stuff, which is line 23.02 down to 23.15. We have increases on all of those, and I just motion we go back to what they are, what last year's number was. So the one went from 25,000 to 30, 2,000 to 2,500, 1,500 to 2,000, and so on. So I've got $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 worth of increases in those line items I'd like to bring back to last year's dollars.
The only thing that I would disagree with about that, because I would go second with you on the rest of it, is the Pawcatuck Neighborhood Center.
I actually think that you should reconsider and with most of these, there were pretty reasonable increases. In my opinion, the one that the United Community and Family Services was a pretty large jump, like a really large jump for them on a percentage basis. I would rather see a motion to bring everybody up to what they requested. And maybe we keep UCFS, maybe we just give them, say, a 10% increase or something like that versus that very large increase that they requested. That still gives you a lot, but I think given the situation we're in, these organizations have never been in the need, probably
that's true, Mike. That's
they're
true.
in need now,
So I would agree. If we can drop down that 23.17, then I would agree with that.
Yeah. Me
All
too.
right, so then why don't we have a motion that we will motion to drop 23.17 down to $1,100. Or we'll make it an $1,100 proposal versus the 5,849 that it was. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, on the next page. On line item 26.05, civil preparedness stipend. So that was at 4860. And we're raising it to 6575. Well, let me just see if that's what I want to do. Nope, excuse me, wrong line. That's, yeah, I'm looking at that, not the stipend, the operating expense. So we went from 4860 up to, raise it by $1,715 of 6575. And if I look at actuals, I've got $2,100, $44, and $5.95. So why is that such a large increase?
So last year he spent $1,762.79. He has regular recurring expenses for his landline, his cell phone, and we added the Connection Pro, which is an emergency backup for internet services up at the CES, since that's where we have the Emergency Operations Center out of. The other items, the miscellaneous and equipment and supplies, that depends on what emergencies we have. So it just depends what you'd like to do. If you want to be planful and have it in the budget, or have the EMD come for an additional appropriation in the event of an emergency. Mike, do you have any other feedback?
I definitely, the one thing we don't want to be worrying about is an emergency. If we need something, Gary, we're not in a position where we're spending, frivolously on this. And I don't want to be in a situation where we overspend because it's an emergency. I mean, if Gary feels that he needs additional funds, and I know he has added that backup line for internet, I would not want to reduce this line.
And I understand what you're saying, Mike, and it's not that big a dollar things. I think this, when I look at the increase, the 8.31% increase, it's mind-boggling that we're that high. And I know that it's not going to fly, and I'm just looking at places we can drop it. So we don't need any other discussion on that line. I'm good. We already talked about for the per diem. We've already talked about that.
Yep.
Highway overtime snow removal. I looked at the actuals, and we're nowhere near the $56,000 that we have in there as a budgeted item. So any idea on that? Why?
It depends how many storms we get. We could have a mild winter where there's not that many, or we could have a very intense winter. We've had a few days, a few storms now that the guys have not gone home and worked around the clock. So that's another one of those things that you can't know what you're definitely going to have as an impact.
I mean, this year's been kind of bad because we've had a couple of storms like that have been on Sundays. So right. You just don't know, but
I understand, but we can make that kind of reasoning on almost every line item, that we have to have money to cover us. But when we get down to the bottom line of the large increase that's going to be tough for taxpayers to afford, we have to cut. I know what's going to happen. We're going to get this give back to us, and we're going to have to make these hard decisions down the road. I'm just figuring if we make them today, we have less to make down the road. And I just think that 56,100 is just,
I think
history is way too big.
I mean, as you keep saying this, Bob, I just want to point out, we have been basically flat on operating since we've been in office. That's 4 years. So, I don't think it's fair that we would kind of precondition ourselves to say that this is a large ask. I mean, we haven't had really an increase in general government, and we've had increases in salaries. We've had a lot of things that we've done with less. So, and I'm not trying to get off track. If you want to reduce the snow line, I don't have a problem with it. It just means if we have a situation where we're approaching a need, that we come for an appropriation for it. That's fine.
And I understand that. And we talk about that a lot, where if something happens, we go to get an appropriation. We know we have X number of dollars in the undesignated fund, which is a fairly large number right now. But I'm just saying, on this budget, to ask the taxpayer to come up with an increase. And I know you said we've been flat since we've been here, but 8.31 is just, it's going to be too large a number for the taxpayer. There's no way that's going to happen. So I suggest that we drop this down. I mean, if we drop it down to 40,000, I mean, looking at the past, I don't see any numbers close to $40,000 in here.
What's the actual well, actually, Christine, do we have up-to-date actuals on that line? Like, can you look and see from where you are now?
Let me try.
Because I'd be interested to see if she's got something fairly up to date. Because this year hasn't been great
Right, this year's not been good.
for us. So let's just kind of get a picture of that before we make a decision like this. Believe me, nothing would make me happier than to deliver another flat budget. I think it's a great accomplishment of what we've been able to do with really nothing as far as increases over the 10
Mike, can you go in my office and turn my computer on, please?
Yeah.
I didn't realize I shut it off since I knew I was coming back in a couple hours.
Is it in the email you sent today, Christine?
No, I have to log into QuickBooks, so I have to get onto my computer to do that. So once he turns it on, it'll be quick.
Do you need me to log into it or just turn it
No,
on?
once it's on, I'm good.
Goes all the way there.
You want to move on, Bob, while she's looking that up?
Yeah, we can do that. So let's move on to the, and I agree with everything Nita said about the library, but I also agree that that's a large increase. We love the library, and we gave them a good size increase last year from 30 to 55,000, and they increased this year for 25. I was originally on board with it. And you know, when this was a document, it's still a document, it's in a working, it's a document in progress, but I can't get over that number I saw on the budget increase. And I have to say that I would like to motion we drop this line item by $10,000.
That's what I said.
Down to 70,000.
I think
There's
that's,
a motion. Is that a second, Nita?
yep, that's a second.
Discussion. I would say that we are underfunding our library, and it's been made very clear to us that we're underfunding our library. I think that we need to move towards properly funding our library, especially for all the things that they provide that, quite frankly, we're not providing in a lot of other areas in town. You know, they fill needs that you know, the town isn't having to fill. We're a small town, so they're doing so many of these things, activities, and I think they have great plans for other things that they want to do too. So I would oppose that. I would argue that we leave that in place, and I would not want us to reduce that. Any other discussion on it?
Well, I think that I would, you know what, I don't really care what we do, because I think I don't really care on this one that much, because I think that the Board of Finance is going to come in and take some of it anyway. That's one thing in my mind that I keep thinking, are we taking something down, and then they're going to come on top of it and take something else down.
But Nita, the Board of Finance is not going to say to us line item by line item. They're going to say, get the budget down to a certain percentage.
Don't you remember last year they looked at everything and they did?
Oh, they did, but then the direction they'll give us is we want the budget to be no more than X number of percent. And that's up to us to go back to the line item state.
Well, you assume that's what they should do. I don't know what they will do. And I don't think it matters. I think we put forward the budget that we think makes the most sense. And to me, funding the library at the request that they had this year makes sense. This meets them. You know, last year we kind of pushed them up a little bit, but we still didn't get anywhere near what other communities are funding their libraries at. We're doing a disservice to our library by not funding it appropriately. And you know, I understand, you know, the feeling of wanting to keep the budget as low as possible, and I welcome further discussions about it. And this isn't an area that I think we should compromise on. So we can go for a more discussion or a vote on it.
Let's go for a vote at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we're going to vote, I'm going to stick with what I originally thought with it, which I mentioned it, but I said I didn't really want to do it, and I don't want to really do it until we really have to do it. So that's what I'll do.
So then the vote would be to reduce the line by, what'd you say, 10, Bob?
$10,000 to 70.
Okay, so the motion was on the table, and so you, in all in favor of reducing that line by $10,000, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion doesn't carry.
Okay. Christine, you get that information before we move on?
I am logging into it right now.
All right, we can move on while you're doing that. On line item C 3.04, town building maintenance. Now we've got, and at least 4 line items in here, we have large increases to town building maintenance. Whether it be with the highway department, there's other areas we had it. We're raising it from $20,000 to $30,000. We already have a $150,000 line item for utilities and expenses on the middle school, and that's that's the new buildings we're talking about. There's no other buildings that the town's taken over that I know of. So I'd motion to drop that $30,000 line item down by $10,000 down to $20,000. So from 30 to 20. Again, that's C.
Is there a second?
3.04.
I'll second. Further discussion on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have no problem with it.
Okay. And the last one before we get to I motion we eliminate the $60,000 $325 for the financial software for this year's budget.
No,
Is there a second? Is there a second on that?
Wait, where are we?
He's on C347, which is the
Sorry.
financial software, which we already talked about earlier.
Oh,
We,
okay.
and just to remind, we already removed OpenGov earlier.
Right,
But
okay.
what I would say, if we drop this, we need to put OpenGov back in. So, or we can drop them both. I mean, whatever you just, but I think this should go out. So I already made a motion, so.
Is there a second on Bob's motion?
Does, not if it means we have to go back to the other one.
Well, I mean,
He's
you don't have to do anything you don't want to. The motion is he doesn't want the software. I don't agree with that statement, so I'm not going to second the motion.
Okay.
Nina, I'm not here.
I don't feel comfortable about weighing in on it at all, so I'll abstain.
So there's no second, so that remains. Christine, do you have the highway info?
Yes, we have spent $48,737.01 so far year to date. So we only have $7,362.99 left in that line
For this year.
for this year. So that is an unreconciled up to the minute number.
All right, it just wasn't reflected in the previous year's totals, but.
Right,
Well-
this February, let me look really quickly and just see how much we spent in February, because February was bad.
And the problem was when the storms came, but you're
Yeah.
right, Bob. I mean, you just don't know. Like, I mean, if we get storms during the workday, I mean, they're already here, and yeah, they might have to work over, but when you're getting them on Sunday after Sunday,
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do about it.
just the month of February was $36,235 because everything happened in February.
Yeah.
Understood. And we might get more to happen, so.
Hopefully
All
not.
All right,
Leave it alone.
yeah.
All right, so Christine, we're gonna need a new number.
Yep, I have kept a running tally of what we've reduced, so I just want to verify it was 10,000 from B2614, which was the per diem firefighters, 13,300 from B2504 Open Gov, removing 1,500 from B4.02, which is the assessor's office expenses, removing 5,749 from B23.17, which is UCFS. And then that we said no on the library for right now, right?
Right.
Correct.
Okay, and then removing 10,000 from capital C 3.04. So do you want a new general government number and a new capital number, or just a new overall number?
I'd like to motion each individually and then a total for the record.
Okay.
So we know debt, that hasn't changed.
Yes. So it's a reduction of $30,549 from general government. For a new number of $5,502,817. And then a reduction in capital of 10,000, which is a new number of 531,078. For an overall new number of 7,416,844. And let me just double check my math in one other way to make sure that all adds up. And it does.
Well, Christine, do you have what the percentage is for just the government operating budget increase, what that percentage increase is?
Ken, if you give me a little bit. $7.72.
In the capital?
$65.87 for an overall percentage of 3.78.
But that's without the Board of Ed being in there. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so with that being said, look for a motion to, Christine, make sure I say this correctly, move forward the general government budget with a proposed general government operating of $5,502,817, proposed capital budget of $531,078, debt budget of $1,382,949 for a total of $7,416,844 to the Board of Finance for recommendation.
Mhm.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I still think it's too high.
Okay, well, why don't we work on it then? What else do you want to do? I mean, I don't want to not go to the budget, but to the Board of Finance. What do you want to take out?
Well, Mike, that we left the 60,000 in there. We didn't do the cut on the library. I just think that the numbers 7.72 is too high.
All right, so let me propose something else then. We agree that this building has to be rented out. we have erred on the side of conservativeness where we have not put any revenue in for the building because we really don't know when it's going to be rented out. And we all agree that if it doesn't get rented out soon, we're going to do something else. And I think there's an agreement, at least in minds, that we don't want to go through another winter with the building. So rather than budget for what is a full year of utilities on the building, why don't we cut that number, knowing that we're not going to do that? We're either going to have revenue or we're not going to have this building for another year. So I would suggest that we reduce that budget number by half. So why don't we put 75,000 in there versus 150,000?
But as you just said, we did that last year and it came back to bite us.
But last year, you're right, it did. But this year, there's more of a commitment from the fact that we just all I think we all nod our heads. We all agreed that we really want to see somebody in there. And if we don't, that something's got to give with the building. So, I mean, I don't think we want to go through another winter. So why are we budgeting for it that way? I just want to find consensus on the budget. I like us to be,
Together.
even if we don't agree on every line item, I don't like that we would not agree on moving the budget forward. It sets us up for failure. I mean, it's a waste of time, to be honest with you.
Well, we have two choices, either move it forward and get feedback from the Board of Finance and not all agree on the budget as it is, or not present it to the Board of Finance tonight and go back and work on it some more. So.
I think it's a waste of time to present the budget to the Board of Finance if we can't agree on it. I have to think more about it, but it doesn't make any sense to me because, I mean, let's just be real, Bob. Like you represent a constituency, and you very clearly are representing that constituency, and that constituency is well represented on other boards. And I don't want to waste our time. I don't want to waste our time. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste the Board of Finance's time. If we can't come to terms on a budget, then we shouldn't present one.
Well, I think that the budget is too high. I don't think the taxpayer can afford it. You're right. I do represent a contingency. It's called a taxpayer. I do. And I think that the budget is still too high. I think there's room that we can probably move it down some more than it is. I just think going in at 7.72 on general government is too high.
And I also represent the taxpayer, Bob. Just, I wasn't trying to insult who you represent. I know that you represent more of a conservative base, and you very clearly state that in your comments in most meetings. So I want to try to find common ground. So that way, when we present this,
Yes.
there's more of a chance of it actually being something viable versus wasting our time. So let's get down to the brass tacks on it. And you basically are saying that you feel that there's, based on the cuts that you proposed, if I'm remembering them correctly, there was probably another 80,000 or so that you felt this budget was too high.
Mm-hmm.
80,000, right?
Right around there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So why don't we look at this budget and see, so would you be in agreement if we found $80,000 in this budget to cut that we could vote potentially to move it forward to the Board of Finance?
I think the $80,000 would get it down to a much more manageable number than it is now.
Okay.
Can I make a comment just for parameters? I just put in what I was curious, just with adding the $150,000, nothing else, keeping it flat from last year, just adding that is already a 2.94% increase. So Bob, I just wanted you to have that as a frame of reference that, we're going to have to pay those bills and hopefully we're going to have reimbursement for it. But that's just so you have a frame of reference that's how much of that the increase is being represented just by that, the taking over the bills for 298,
Mm-hmm.
if that's helpful.
It does. I understand that. So my feeling is, how I feel. So I want to go to the Board of Finance because I want to get feedback from the Board of Finance. I want them to give us more direction. I'm not comfortable with the budget as it is, as I've stated, but I also don't want to not get feedback from the Board of Finance. So I want to move it forward to that. But I would just tell you, I'm not comfortable with the budget the way it is. But if this is a democracy, and if there's two selectmen that are comfortable and I'm not, I don't want to stop the budget from going to the Board of Finance to get feedback from that board.
I would rather remove $80,000 from the budget so everyone is comfortable in some way or another, so that we have a unanimous vote moving it forward.
Where are you getting the 80,000 though from?
I haven't gotten that far yet. I'd like to do some more work on it right now.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I'd like to do right now. So
We're forgetting
looking-
all about the revenue and how much revenue is at the top of that list.
Well, this is all we're moving forward to the Board of Finance is expenses. And that's all that this page represents is expenses. It doesn't have anything to do with revenue. So I think we will have a conversation about revenue. But I think in order to get to a unanimous vote,
Okay.
based on Bob's feedback that he would like to see around $80,000 cut from the budget to get behind it. So I'm just going to look through it and see if I can find things that make sense to me that haven't been already discussed.
Mike, why don't we just go to capital, start there? Maybe that'll help. I mean, we have $55,000 for a new pickup truck.
It's needed. We've sacrificed capital so much over the last couple of years. It's a tough place to go. Would you get behind reducing the expenses on 298 in some regard? So down to 100,000.
Yeah, I could live with taking $50,000 out of that line item. Be feeling confident that we will get something done with that school building between now and the summer, hopefully.
All right, and then
So you're set on that $60,000 for the financial software, right?
I know that we need to do a better job of how we can better collaborate from a logistical standpoint financially between the school and the town. And I think this will help. If you were sitting in my seat, you would agree with me, but you're not, you don't see like the everyday stuff like this. So I think it will help. I don't know that, but I'm pretty married to doing it. I think it's a really important and big deal for us to do that.
Can you take $10,000 out of the town building maintenance?
Didn't we do that already?
Town building maintenance? I don't think so.
Yeah, we did.
C304, we did, Nita.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay.
What about,
Right.
hey, Christine, that position, just remind me for highway.
Mhm.
Was that full or part-time?
Part-time,
Part-time.
part-time, no benefits.
Right. That's what I thought, just making sure. Well, what about, we know we just talked about it and we didn't do anything about it, but it would turn the budget to that 80,000 if we add in the de-obligation that we just discussed. I mean, we just didn't decide to do that, but I mean, it is the obligation that could be de-obligated. The two items were remediation.
Abate and demo.
Yeah, abate and demo, which there's no immediate plans for any of that kind of work. Not that we didn't have work we could do with that, but there's nothing immediately planned. And then the rest of the roof money, right?
At the storage shed at the highway.
The highway. Do we have an exact number on that?
$23,617.64 is the two projects together.
Could we add that de-obligation in, and that gets us to 73? Would that bring you around, Bob?
I want to, I do want to move this forward to the Board of Finance for tonight's meeting. So I do want to get feedback. So if that'll get us to the Board of Finance to get feedback from that board, then I'm fine.
Thank you.
So is there a motion from someone to add $23,617.64 to A 5.19?
So moved.
Second. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
And I'm not sure there was an actual motion about the reduction of,
Right, yeah. You need to go back and do that.
yeah, the line for, what line is that?
That is B 22.06.
To bring B 2206 down to $100,000 versus 150. Make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I mean, yes, okay, so what's the new numbers if we do that then, Christine? Sorry.
It's okay, I'm working on it.
I mean, listen, I've sacrificed things in this budget that I'm not happy about. And as long as we come together on the fact that we're moving it forward together, I think that's important, you know, and I want to get feedback too, but I want to stand behind the budget we present. And that's important to me, that if we're putting a budget forward, that we stand behind it. So.
And I think starting with them tonight is really important because they think they're going to have weeks on end to keep going at this stuff. So we really can't put it off.
Okay, so the new general government operating number is $5,452,817. And your new total is $7,366,844 because the other part's getting added into revenue.
What's the
Okay.
new percentage, Christine, on the general government? What's the new percentage increase on general government?
Yep, just give me 1 second.
I'm sorry.
$6.74.
The overall,
3.54.
so I'd look for a motion to bring forward a government budget in the amount of general government operating 5 million. What was it?
5,452,817.
Okay. That, with debt being 1,382,949 and capital the same, which
Capital
was
531,078.
1,078 for a total of, was it total?
7,366,844.
44, okay. Do we have a motion? Motion by Nita, second.
I'll second.
Second by Bob. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good work, Board of Selectmen. Never easy. All right, we'll see each other in an hour then. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, see you in an hour.
Thank you.